All right, how's it going, everybody? This is Omar Thabit, and I am live here with Julie Weatherhead. We are live on MotivateMe313. First of all, Julie, I just want to say thank you very much for doing this interview with us at MotivateMe313.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you have a lot of awesome things to say, so I'm not going to sit here and talk. We're going to get straight into it. So my first question is, Julie, can you tell us about yourself?
I shall. So my name is Julie Weatherhead. I have lived in the city of Detroit. I came here for grad school 2007. I grew up downriver, south of Detroit, in a place called Woodhaven. Went to Michigan State for college, which I was really blessed to do. Didn't really know what I was doing because, you're just supposed to go to college. Not many people tell you much beyond that. You're supposed to do it so you can be a professional.
Yep.
I was able to move down to Florida and Arizona for a minute and work some jobs, and then I came back to Detroit for grad school at Wayne State.
Okay.
And then that was 2007. And then I moved. I got my master's in counseling, and I specialize in school counseling. My parents were in the education system. My dad's a teacher, gym teacher, basketball coach, athletic director like yourself for a moment in time. My mom was an everything lady, lunch lady, in-house lady, detention lady, hall honor lady, paraprofessional lady. And so working in the schools, being a school counselor sounded really great. I really appreciated, if I get to have a family one day, I really appreciated the schedule of my parents. And I just love young people. I think young people are quite literally our future. My dad would always say, I get to work with the world's greatest natural resource. He's like, I get to work with kids, like they're our greatest natural resource. So being in education and being connected to young people was really important to me. And then also working in the mental health area, because when I was 13 years old, my brother died really, really suddenly in the house with me and my mom. No warning. It was terrible. It was traumatic, right? It was trauma.
Sorry to hear that.
And to deal with that, so in my family too, I was talking to you about this before. My mom is Syrian and my dad is English-Irish, right? And culturally, in many, many cultures, but I would say especially too in the Syrian side and people of color, like counseling, many people aren't as open to it. It's a little bit stigmatized. And I think for many people, not just people of color or any different ethnicities, it's stigmatized, but especially so sometimes. And so I remember I was very, very blessed to have a family friend because my parents could tell that I was different from that trauma and trying to save my brother's life and just going through all that. And luckily I was able to get some trauma-specific therapy, which was crazy. It was freaky deaky. It was like my brain was rewired, right? It was rewired and rerouted to back to a more calmer place, I guess, or not so heightened from that trauma. Not to say that I didn't need more therapy after that, but I also realized too that I didn't ever really properly grieve my brother. So with young kids, they often just get thrown back into the mix. I think also adults don't take the proper time to grieve often as well. But with children, they believe that they develop or they have some different type of resilience, which it may come across that, but I can tell you that grief will come, right? Especially depending on the relationship or the lack of relationship, that you at some point realize that something is really missing. So that was something really interesting too. When I went to Michigan State University, I fell into some depression I figured out was related to the grief of my brother that I had never really addressed. And so I love working with youth. I love working with grief. I call myself a community counselor and a grief doula. And a grief doula in the way of just delivering that grief and holding space for it, because often that's simply what we need to do. Also, if there's some trauma and it's a traumatic death and there's a different type of relationship, there's some processing that needs to happen with that too, but also just making room for those feelings of loss and sadness is really important. So Yeah, and I worked in the schools for 9 years, and this last year is the first year that I worked not in a school. I would work part-time in Hamtramck. Before that, I worked at the International Academy in Troy. I worked at the Boggs School, elementary school in Detroit, and I worked overseas in Ecuador and also in Colorado. So I've gotten to meet a lot of different types of kids and people, and I just love humans, and I love learning from them and lifting them up, holding them in love and accountability to themselves to be their best self.
That is amazing story, just everything in general. Like, I know you and I, we were kind of discussing this. We didn't really get a chance to get to know each other, but I feel like I got to know you now a little more. And great story. And all that has to do with why you do what you do today. That's what I'm assuming, that all that took into consideration, and that's why you do what you do. So we appreciate all that you do, by the way. So thank you for sharing that. So I know you kind of touched on this, but other than work, what are some other things you do around the community? Just looking at your Facebook page, you do a lot. I see you are a part of a lot. So what are some of the stuff that you enjoy doing?
Well, I think it goes down to supporting the youth, right? And for me right now, I was really lucky to be connected to a group called the COVID-19 Youth Task Force. And this is a conglomerate of youth groups around the city that came together, even outside of the city too. Some youth groups of people who just wanted to support other young people during this time, this very, very difficult time. So they asked me to be a mental health ally and advocate, which is really awesome. Some of the main leaders of that group are Generation of Promise, which is out of Focus Hope. That's a really great program for young people. They're actually offering free counseling. It's not as much mental health counseling, but it's like counseling and coaching. Generation of Promise, check that out. They're offering that for free right now. DAM is Detroit Area Youth Uniting Michigan. They're one of the groups that is kind of the leaders of this, or bringing it together. And another group is Detroit Heals Detroit. Detroit Heals Detroit is on the east side of Detroit. They're a group of young people who believe in healing themselves. DAM is a social justice, and they've done a lot of different movements over the years, whether to do with water in the city, right, and how that's happening, gun laws and advocacy and policies. They're kind of in the mix for advocating for youth and uniting youth, as their name suggests. So in the past couple months, we've been having some meetings, and we did something called a Care Kit Project. And so I was able to compete on Detroit Soup with one of the youth, and we won $2,000 to send out these care kits all over the state of Michigan to kids. And then in those care kits, they're able to say, do I want to be connected with a pen pal, a peer advocate, or a peer, a peer, yeah. Or do I want to be connected with a mental health professional? And so I started another fundraiser to help provide no-cost therapy to those young people who said that they wanted to be connected to a mental health professional at this time. And so this fundraiser is raising money for DAM, Detroit Heals Detroit. So it's $2,000 to DAM, $2,000 to Detroit Heals Detroit for their healing hub that they're building on the east side, and then $2,000 for mental health programming. So I get to start serving these young people, of course, with permission and contact with their families, which is amazing, it is all part of it. I'm so honored to be a village member, right? Yep. Like, whenever I work with young people, or adults too, right? Like, we're raising each other up all together. Like, we are holding each other accountable with love, and, again, to be our best selves and to be a part of the community that we're in, and take care of us, right? Take care of us first so we can then take care of others. Definitely. Because we got to be good inside here first. So that's one of the things that's happening right now. And then, I have my regular caseload, and kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen in August on. And I also do grief groups. That's one more thing too. I do grief groups twice a month. They are no cost. They were in person and they moved online. And I am looking at some programming for July that will be very, very small, possibly in person. But yeah, just grief support for people 16 and up, ages 16 and up, just to be around other people who are also memorializing and celebrating and grieving and feeling those feelings. So those meetings have been great on Zoom. I've paired up with Takara Woods from a place called the Michael Organization. They serve grieving families who've been impacted by homicide. But she's an amazing therapist, done a lot of work around grief and trauma. So me and her co-lead those grief groups for now. Those happen twice a week.
Yeah. All this information is just very important, and honestly, I hope that people, once we're done with this interview, we can kind of spread this message out, because all this information is very important, especially right now with the COVID. I feel like there's more, and I know you probably can attest to this. There's more mental health problems and issues going around because people are at home. They really can't interact with people. So, all this information. I know you're about to say. Were you about to say something?
No.
Yeah.
I'm just, you asked me how I was doing before we got on this call, and I told you, I had a bad day yesterday. I had a sad day yesterday.
Yeah. Definitely.
I needed a hug. I needed. I'm a very physical person, so not hugging and not touching is really hard for me. And that's part of my culture, too, on the Arab side. We're very huggy, we're very kissy, we're very cuddly, people. And so yesterday was hard.
Yeah.
And so, it's missing that physical presence. It's missing being able just to see and feel the energy of your friends, or dancing at parties or whatever. So however you relieve stress, this is an extra stressful time. So it's nice when people can reach out.
Well, I'm happy you're here. I'm definitely happy you're here doing this interview with us and sharing this information. My next question kind of again goes off of what you were saying. So on your bio it says that you are a lover of humans and connecting them. What makes you so passionate about what you do?
About connecting people. I love connecting people because I love people, right? Everybody has a story. Everybody's story is continuing, and you don't know what's really going to happen next, right?
Yeah.
I love connecting. Somebody asked me if I had a superpower once, what would it be? And I think it is to, snap my fingers and put two people in the room who I know would vibe with each other and lift each other up with their skills or their ideas or whatever. So I love connecting people to each other to help each other grow and be better. And that's something that the city of Detroit really taught me when I moved here too. For my family as well. My family is a very loving, open door policy family. I was definitely bringing people over to eat. My mom would pretend like she didn't like it, but she liked it. She likes feeding people. She liked, we like cooking people up with some love, some love via food. But, love can be shared and spread in many different ways, and connecting people with each other, with their skills and their passions. And then, connecting people with themselves, of how great they are. Everybody has greatness within them, for sure.
For sure.
I think, and peace and happiness, and everybody has something to offer themselves and to keep themselves safe and loved and warm, and challenging themselves and trying new things, and do whatever floats your boat, but also connecting people with each other. That's a thrill. It's just great.
Like you said, everybody has it in them, and I guess what you love doing is bringing it out of them. So that is awesome that you do that. Or
getting them through it. Going back to high school, right? Like sometimes we're stuck in positions we don't want to be in that feel suffocating, or it's a system that's broken, but we need to walk through it at this moment in time, right? And so connecting people to support and love through that too, to just sometimes we need to survive, and then other times we can push ourselves to thrive, right? But both of those are important, both of those times in our life, because we all got them. And if you haven't had it yet, it might be coming for you, is what I like. Don't think that anybody's life is perfect, ever.
Yep. And going off of that, why do you feel people should take their mental health serious, and even as serious as their physical health?
It is your physical health, right? You know this, gym teacher.
Exactly.
Let me ask you, how do you, I want to get back. I need to get back into the research. The research of the brain is becoming more and more. I wouldn't say there's a huge surge in what we've been receiving, but I feel like there is a steady increase helping people understand that physical health is your mental health, right?
I agree.
I asked my client today, I was like, where do you feel your stress in your body somatically? Somatic means, your body, how do we heal ourselves with moving our body? Somatic symptoms would be, my stomach hurts because maybe it's because of stress, right? Or when they say you feel butterflies, right? So getting this together of like, okay, what does that mean? Oh, I'm feeling something in my mind and my heart, and that makes me physically actually feel something. And so asking my clients too, do you feel that in your body somewhere? They're like, yeah, I feel it in my shoulders and whatever. So us, doing some stretches, doing some deep breathing. We call it grounding back into your body. Sometimes our mind takes off, and sometimes our body takes off too. And that can affect chronic illness. That can affect being chronically sore or having a pinched nerve because you become so tight in here. Mental health is just so connected to have, we have to have these positive, not even positive, we have to have these grounding. And grounding, again, is like coming into our body, being present tense, remembering that we don't really have much control over many things except for how we hold ourselves, how we react, what our actions are. And so having these routines, these coping skills to love ourselves and fill our own bucket. We talk about like filling people's buckets with love and energy, whether it be positive or not so good energy. We need to always focus on the routines we have for ourselves and take care of ourselves like that. So it's very related though, physical and mental, and I think more research will continue to come out showing the connections to people who might not think that's true.
Yep, I agree. I definitely agree. And and as you know already, there's a stigma around mental health. People are afraid to address if there is an issue. They're afraid to address it even with their loved ones. So what do you think it'll take for people to get over that stigma?
Yeah, I think that relationships is how we get convinced or feel okay and safe enough to do much of anything, right?
Yep.
So as I was telling you earlier, when I had these symptoms of trauma and kind of my personality had changed and everything like that, I don't know if anything would have happened if we did not have a family friend that was in trauma therapy, right? Like, I think being able to trust and to meet somebody that you've never met, you've never talked to, and you're about to tell them, like, your deepest, darkest shit, like, like, that's scary, like, especially, too, if they have a culturally different background than you, or a different ethnic background than you, then there's this other gap, right? This gap of trust and understanding that our experiences maybe have not been the same, so how can you understand what I'm going through? I remember when I was young, when I was 13, and the person that I saw, I remember just sitting across from her being like, there's no way this lady knows what I'm thinking and feeling. There's no way. Yeah. Like, how am I going to trust this lady? Not until she cried. I remember this very distinctly. Not until she talked to me a little bit about the grief and the trauma that she had from losing somebody in her life, and she cried a little bit, and I was like, okay, I think maybe now. Yeah. So again, it's this relationship. And so even within certain communities, again, people within those own communities kind of developing relationships or becoming certified, there's a really big push for having directories of therapists of color, right? Because it does matter. Like, cultural competency and background does matter. That doesn't mean that I can't serve people that are different than me and it won't work out. That's not what that means, but it does have an impact in trust and destigmatizing. Also, insurance, the way that I operate right now, I don't take insurance. There may be a time where I do take insurance because that can be accessibility, but without taking insurance, I'm able to meet clients wherever they need to be met, and I don't have to approve it, through anybody. I can meet them at their house, at my house. Obviously right now that is limited, but I was seeing people online before this started because I like to meet my clients in person. It's preferred, always. Get that energy, catch that vibe. But sometimes it's hard to leave the house. Sometimes you don't have the energy to leave the house, and so doing an online session is a good idea. And so again, like, how do we make things accessible, come to people's backyards, be able to see people in their home, just make it, again, accessibility, and then relationships and trust and communication. Even when I was a school counselor, I tried to be out in the halls. I try to be a part of clubs because I don't want to just be this person behind a door that you never see and is not human. Like, I'm a human too. One of my mentors, I would say, or somebody I look up to, they call themselves a community counselor as well, right? Because we're in the community and we're growing and we're learning, and we kind of hopefully see what's going on in all ways, right? Politically, culturally, within families, in neighborhoods and high schools, what's going on in these communities that impact us individually.
Wow, and that answer, I actually never heard that from somebody, is the word relationships, and I think that is the strongest way of hopefully little by little taking down that stigma that surrounds different communities and different people, that is. So funny, I'm reading this question that I wrote down, and I probably sent this to you. It says you do spit for the communities you work with. I meant to say a lot, all right? So you do I don't know, you probably read it.
I'm spitting for communities, let's go.
So you do a lot, for the communities that you work with, just hearing the stuff right now too. So why do you feel it's important to give back to the community and the surrounding communities that you do work with?
That's a crazy question.
I know, but some people don't do it, so I have to ask, and just so that, so you can inspire. Right. Hopefully you can inspire others too, because obviously it's obvious.
Oh man, I can't tell you how hard it was. I remember when stuff was going on in Flint and I was trying to get people to go to Flint with me to hand out water. Incredibly hard to get people to volunteer. Yeah. Incredibly.
Definitely.
And so you're right, it's not a crazy question. What, there's a sign, this guy is making signs with balloons. Do you remember? Have you seen that? They're really beautiful, shiny balloons, and one says, "How do I convince you to care about other people?"
Yeah.
But why is it important is because we're all connected, like what happens to this person could easily happen to somebody, to my child or my niece or my nephew or my uncle or my aunt. I think because I am so relational, I just see that, right? Like, and sometimes you might call that unteachable, but also it is teachable. Social and emotional intelligence. That's something that's a hot word, right? Social and emotional intelligence, social intelligence. It's like compassion, right? Like it's practicing being with people. And I think it's really hard because we get so busy in our lives and we don't stop to take care of ourselves. So how are we supposed to take care of others too, right? Again, going back to that is like, I don't have time. I'm working and I have kids, or I'm working and then I'm a part of these organizations that I go to meetings for, which is giving back to community, right?
Yeah.
So there are different ways to give back to community, whether it be monetarily, donating somewhere every month. Like I do a $5 donation a month to Allied Media Projects, which is a great organization in the city that supports a lot of other organizations. Allied Media Projects, they actually have a conference coming up soon, the Allied Media Conference. You should check it out. But yeah, even something little like that, $5 a month, picking an organization to volunteer with and be like, this is how I'm going to spend so many hours of my month, of my year, right? Like break it down, like how much time you have, how much can you sacrifice to be with others and develop community, and not just to go in and pat yourself on the back. That's part of it too, is to just be connected and interrelated to folks, and to create relationship. and that relationship and that familiarity makes it not so distant when we think of other things like policies that are happening, or how do we take care of the homeless, how are Black people and Black bodies threatened, and how does racism exist in our society? Oh, well, when I have relationships with anybody that's different than me, whether I'm volunteering side by side with them or I'm at a soup kitchen, serving meals to homeless folks or people without homes, or people in transition, right? Because some people are just in transition, and they have all the potential with some extra supports and helps and relationships. So it's so important. We're all connected. Your children are my children. Your brothers are my brothers. Your sisters are my sisters, for sure.
That's awesome that you say that, because I asked the same question to one of the other people that I interviewed, and he had a very similar answer as you did. So that's why I kind of like hearing people's answers, because, like I said, for a future person that may be watching this, they could sit there and say, like, they're right, and if they have all similar answers, then that should be something that they should be thinking about too, and maybe they can think the same way and go about it the same way as well. So thank you for saying what you did. And I feel like you're helping me out, because the way you say your answers kind of leads to the next question, because I know you mentioned Black Lives and those organizations that are associated with that. So I've seen some of the stuff that you had on Facebook. A lot of it had to do with the Black Lives Matter movement, which is still going on right now. So what are your thoughts on the whole movement that is going on across the country?
It's a big question.
Yeah, I know. I know you could pick away at it however way you want.
Yeah. My thoughts are that there's been a wave of consciousness, and I've been on a journey of understanding what white supremacy is, how it exists in me, as a fully white presenting person and white privileged person, what that looks like. Again, I think the relationships that I've had within the city of Detroit, with my classmates, with my friends, hearing and understanding personal accounts of discrimination that are absurd, that, I know that I would get away with, again, because of internal bias, because of familiarity, because of racism, all of those things, right?
Definitely.
People from all backgrounds. I know Arabic folks and some other populations of kids that I've worked with, their parents have some pretty bad stereotypes, yeah. Right? And which is fed by media a lot of the times too, of like, oh yeah, this is what a Black person represents. These are the roles I see them playing in movies. Like, yeah, I need to cross the street because they're dangerous. It's like all this information is fed to us not through relationship, right? Not through trusting and understanding people's experiences, and not through history, because we haven't been taught the history of Black people at all. We haven't been taught the history of Indigenous people. So even when we talk about Black Lives Matter, right? Like learning about Indigenous folks and their struggles and the treaties that were broken and the lies and kind of how our government was created and operated is a really big shock to the system. And I think that that's what's happening a lot for white folks right now, a lot of white people or non-Black people, and maybe even some Black people too, who are learning about these laws and the ways that our system is set up to push up one certain population and to push up a dominant culture, and that dominant culture being white people here, right? And worldwide, white supremacy, skin lightening lotion, really big thing in different countries, right? I don't know if you feel this too, but within other ethnic groups, colorism, right? They call it, where if you have darker skin versus the lighter skin. Again, like there's so many different ways to understand and look around and understand what's happening. Whether again it's reading a book, reading about history and policies that have been put in place, and also just bottom line, we need to protect our brothers and sisters. And our Black brothers and sisters have been oppressed a lot. Yeah. And are being murdered, and there's no accountability. And there's a really big lack of the United States being able to take accountability for their mistakes, right? I think one of my cousins was pointing out about, there was the two men who at the Olympics had put up their fists, their black power fists, and then there was the white man who was standing by them, you know, with a pin, you know, supporting them but not putting his fist up. And he was from Australia, and she posted an article about him, about how, you know, he supported them. And in Australia, there was also a really big issue of racism against their Aboriginal people there. And it's really interesting to see Australia had made a day called Sorry Day. Like, we're sorry. Like, it's a holiday, like saying sorry to Aboriginal folks. And that's not to say that things are perfect over there and they're doing a great job. But to create a holiday and a day admitting that you have prosecuted people unfairly and put them down, like, that's what's up. You know, that's when people talk about reparations. Like, we prohibited them from buying land. Like, there's all the paperwork is there. Just like with indigenous folks too, right? Like, we broke treaties. Like, we, as in the American government and people, right? This isn't a personal thing. This isn't something that you did individually to somebody, but this is something that's happened within our system that's held back a lot of people. And so I'm really I'm excited in a sense of, like, wanting people to keep going and keep pushing for change. And I've been trying to listen a lot to other activists and elders who have been in this fight for a lot longer than I have. And I started my journey a little bit ago, but still have so much to learn and take in. And so it sounds like they say it feels like this is different, right? Because there has been a whole other wave of consciousness, and maybe not just white people's, but also other people of color who are like, oh, okay, yeah, we need to stand up for each other. We need to get out there and vote differently, or be, you know, get on an understanding of what's going on.
Definitely.
So it's important. That's what I have to say. It's extremely important and vital to keep going together and support each other through it, because it's hard.
It is, and it's going to take some time too. It's not going to just happen overnight. But I'm happy that you mentioned colorism. It's very important to mention that too, because it does exist in all different cultures, I think. Ethnicities, you know, there is a lot that goes on. So, you know, supporting the Black Lives Matter movement is like supporting all of that. You know, I feel like it's kind of knocking down each barrier one by one. So, good thing that you mentioned that. So, you know, as you mentioned, there's a lot going on in this world. Okay, so if I ask Julie, you know, when it comes to the future of our kids, what do you want to see? I know it's kind of like a broad question, but what does Julie want to see 10, hopefully not even that long, maybe 5-10 years from now? What is Julie's quote unquote perfect world?
Again, this is a crazy question. It's so big. I want us to be good communicators. I think in the world of digital, we've already seen that so much with kids, young people, the way they communicate with each other and not really have to see each other face to face, right? Which technology can be a big, beautiful thing used for really good, awesome design and efficiency and love. But I think too, even when we had to have masks on, I was like, oh, this is good. People are going to have to look each other in the eye. Like, that's kind of cool.
That's
like,
true.
You're gonna have to, like,
you're gonna be forced to, yeah. That's what the mask
yeah,
does.
which, you know, no, I mean, I think that, again, really seeing somebody, really listening to somebody, having an open mind and an open heart to see what things look like different. Like, I think, too, with this whole abolish the police, I know Minneapolis just said that the city council, I believe, voted to put it on the ballot to abolish police. And it's freaking so many people out, right? Oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Another thing that I've had a really cool chance to be involved with in the past, I haven't done a gig with them lately, is the Detroit Safety Team. It's a group of young people that created Detroit Safety Team as a resource for events to hold some emotional security, right? Like, so many people on this Detroit Safety Team are social workers and counselors, and we're there in case people need any sort of support to talk through things, to, hold space, to connect them to people that can support them in times that they're triggered or feeling upset. So again, like the Detroit Safety Team is a part of what a world looks like without police, or looking at other nations and being able to look outside of our bubbles. That's what I want for young people, is to look outside of our bubbles and imagine and act and practice what a world could look like that's more just, that is more compassionate and more kind. And that's going to be running for office, or that's going to be creating communities and taking control over communities and showing people like this is possible. Because it's hard, we have a hard time believing when other countries give healthcare. Like, how can we do that? I don't know. Well, we have to start trying. We have to try it to see how it works, stop saying no and start saying, yeah, okay, let's try, let's do this. And so that's what I want for young people, is to have that attitude of, I think that, again, like dominant culture, what is that going to be like? Is it going to be kind and compassionate people who look like the United States of America, what we represent, our salad bowl, not our melting pot. We're not, all one. Our differences make us stronger. Our diversity and where we come from and our different points of view and the different practices that we have from different cultures are important, so important, and create such a beautiful, strong weaving of culture, potentially. So that's what I hope to see in the next 5 to 10 years for our young people, is to really be stepping into that. We have a lot of young people too who are like, I'm not a Democrat or Republican. They're like, I'm not really here for either of it. Yeah. And so pushing that as well, right? Like, how do we get candidates to represent us who really represent, can represent that kindness and compassion and thinking outside of the box, and not how unfair or crazy they seem. How can we create smaller communities and thrive together?
There you go, and you keep answering these crazy questions really well, so I appreciate that, by the way. So this is a question that I ask all the guests that I interview. The first one is obviously tell us about yourself, and then the next one is what gets you up every morning. So basically, what is your motivational factor each morning that once you wake up, and hopefully it's not coffee, or I think that's what you're drinking right now.
It's not coffee.
Okay.
It's matcha tea.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I hope it's not tea that gets you up every morning.
Yeah, it's matcha tea with some CBD, because CBD helps your muscles and everything.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
Okay.
But what gets me up in the morning? My plants. I know that's not the answer you're looking for either, but I planted a garden for the first time ever. I've helped out with other people's gardens before, and that's like a meditation, right? So that's a centering of time, because gardens just don't shoot stuff up. Like, you have to water it, and you have to tend to it every day, and you have to be with it and give it water, give it water, and your water could be whatever. It could be meditation. It could be going for a run in the morning. It could be talking to your family member that you love and just checking in with them. But yeah, what makes me get up in the morning is, I don't know, it's another day, man. It's another gift. Yep. From having my brother die so suddenly when I was young, really changed my perspective on life to understand that, death can come. It can come any day, any minute, any second. And so while we're here, we might as well enjoy it and be in community and be in love with each other, work in love, and create really cool, awesome things, and lift each other up, and make this journey, worth it, and full of moments of laughter and sadness and feeling the feelings and being human, right? It's just cool to be a human. We have so many awesome capabilities, and to get up and live every day out. And sometimes, it's hard to get up in the morning. It's really hard sometimes. When we're feeling down, or we're wondering, like, why am I here? But connecting with other folks, whether that be a counselor, whether that be a community member, and letting them know, like, hey, I'm having a tough time, I need somebody to talk to. That's what I did yesterday. I was having a tough day yesterday, and I was like, I need a timeout. I need to feel some feelings. I need to sort it out and, understand, okay, what am I going to do today? How am I going to love myself? And then get back at it tomorrow, whatever other things I have on my agenda and my goals. So.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your personal story as well, because, that just brings another aspect to this and just being able to connect with you in another way. So I appreciate you sharing that with all of us. And then my last question, and I know I told you it's not going to last that long, but you know what? It happened. I'm sorry. But I'm glad that
I got to get dinner with my Tay Shindo. Come on. No, they already know. I'll tell her later.
All right, good. Well, the last question that I have, for someone who may walk in the same or similar footsteps as you, what advice would you give them? Motivate us.
What do you mean, the similar footsteps as me?
Someone who might go into counseling, someone who helps out the community in all the different ways that you do.
I think that finding mentorship in somebody who has been through and done some of the things that you did. That was a really big regret, mistake that I feel like I made when I went to get my master's in counseling. It happened and I'm here, but nobody in my family was in mental health. And so I didn't really have people to connect to very much. And also you could connect with one person. I even recommend too, if you can find one or two people to, again, like interview and be like, hey, I want to find out how you got to where you are. And, what do you think about it? And what are the opportunities for different types of careers? So I always encourage people, or I try to hook young people up with people that are doing what they think they want to do or what they think looks like a really good idea for them to do. So seeking out that, making cold calls or emails and being like, hey, whatever, I don't care if it's the CEO of whatever company that you think is badass, like reaching out and trying to see, can we connect? Can you be, if you want a certain supervisor who does a really cool therapy practice, like I said, I've reached out for help to people to be like, how do you do this? I like the way you do that. I like the way you show up. What's your path and your journey? So learning about others, gathering information, listening to others and who are in positions of community and leadership that you admire, showing up and just that's my biggest piece of advice, is to find people to help connect you to the path that might be right for you, because exposure is everything. If you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep.
So the more you can talk to people about it and figure out if it might be right for you, that's something that I definitely recommend, whether it's school counseling or private practice and luckily that is the power of the internet too, is there is stories and stuff out there, and it's tough these days if you don't have good access or if you don't have devices. Unfortunately, it's a really tough time right now for learning. But when and if you do get those, writing down, journaling, making a 5-year plan, making a 10-year plan of like, oh, I think this is what I want my life to look like in this amount of time, or maybe, what are your goals? Writing down what your goals are and believing in them and trying to do one little thing towards that every day. Making a list, checking it off. I can just keep going, but I think the mentorship, connecting with adults in school is a really good way to do that if you're a young person, but also cold calling and emailing and contacting people and just showing up and asking for what you think you need or what you want to develop a relationship humbly and move into what you think you're called to do.
That is awesome. And believe it or not, that was another answer that was very similar to another person was saying that don't be afraid to reach out, kind of similar in that aspect of it. Any final thoughts, any final words before we kind of shut this down? I know you got that dinner to go to.
Socially distanced, outside, very far away. I love my Tay so much. I feel so blessed that they're close to me. But no, love yourself first is what I say. That's my, fill your own bucket. Find out what works for you to love you and remember that you are a phenomenal being. And then do it. You know, like, what are the ways that you can show up for your first yourself, and then how can you show up for others?
Thank you very much, Julie. I'm just gonna ask if you could just stick around a little bit longer, like once I end the videos, just so we could chat a little bit, and then I'll have you go. But again, thank you guys all. For those of you that are watching or will watch eventually, this was another interview on Motivate Me 313 with Julie Weatherhead, and thank you very much again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you for doing this.